Everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda Rose and I am a high school teacher in Brooklyn, New York. And before I get started in today's video, I need to give you all a shout out. In my last video, I told you guys to help me get rid of my stickers and you guys came through. The amount of orders, multiple orders for the same stickers, it makes me so happy. I know that although I am not going to be making more of these stickers, I think I'm just going to close this chapter for now. Hopefully when you all do start receiving your orders that you really do fall in love with the stickers and like them as much as I did and as much as I had fun creating them. Hopefully you will get them right after the holiday weekend. Give it some time because we do have 4th of July, but hopefully the latest Wednesday or Thursday is when you should be getting your stickers. So keep me updated, tag me on Instagram when you get them. I'm just really excited that you guys purchased them. So let's talk about today's video. I wanted to focus on 5 teaching myths that I have heard of, that I have believed over time, and I believe that we just need to stop listening to these things, stop believing them because they are detrimental to the teaching community and to you as a teacher or future teacher. So if you haven't already, please make sure that you like this video, that you subscribe to my channel, and let's get into this. Stop listening to these 5 teaching myths. So the first one that we need to stop listening to and completely cut out of our vocabulary and our thinking is that anyone can teach. Now hear me out. I genuinely believe that teaching requires skill, compassion, patience, the skill of communication, creativity, organization. It requires a lot to be not just a teacher, but to be a great teacher. And I'm not gonna lie, that saying, those who can't teach, is highly offensive because it's just not true. We have all experienced a bad teacher. It is what it is. We have all had teachers where they have not done a great job at communicating content to us. We left the room confused. We felt like we didn't really learn anything. And I do think that a lot of that does fall on the teacher and the way that they use their skill to communicate and present content. So please, if you are feeling a little embarrassed about pursuing education and being a teacher, or maybe it's just a little bit more frowned upon compared to in the past, please stop listening to that myth. Everyone cannot teach. We know this. It requires a lot of skill. And so if you are pursuing education, pursue it. Know that it is a valuable career that requires a lot of skill, a lot of creativity, organization, communication. You have to be someone who knows how to do multiple things and do them well. Stop listening to that myth. Not everyone could be a teacher. The second myth that I want you to stop listening to is that teachers must dedicate their lives to their students. Now hear me out, okay? I do not mean that teachers should not care about their students, that they should not take their job seriously, okay? Please do not misuse my words. But I do believe that it is a myth that teachers must dedicate their lives to their students. Teachers should be dedicating their lives to their family, to their spouses, to their children, to their parents, their lives, okay? That word lives is a really big deal. But I think that teachers are put on this really weird pedestal that if you are not 100% 24/7 thinking about your student and thinking about things to do, that you are somehow a bad teacher, that you're not equipped for education. And I think that that is a myth that really needs to be broken because it is extremely unhealthy healthy. If you are constantly pouring all of your time and all of your energy into your students, you may enjoy that. So I'm not knocking the people who enjoy that. I'm speaking more to the people who don't feel that way, and you may feel guilty or unfit to be an educator. I think it's very important to find balance. It does not matter if you are a great teacher if your child feels like you are abandoning them. It does not matter if your students think you are a great teacher if your spouse feels neglected. It does not matter if your students think you are a great teacher but you haven't seen your family in over a year. And you've had the choice, right? Not because of COVID, but you have chosen to do so. For me, I think that priorities would have to be revisited, okay? We serve our students 100% without a doubt. But the myth that our lives have to be 100% dedicated to our students, that has to be crushed and thrown out the window, because there has to be a balance. We are dealing with children and we love them. And so I understand how naturally we are going to go above and beyond for them because we love them. But please keep in mind that your life, right? Your life has to be able to be centered and focused around other things as well. If your students are the only ones in your life and you want to pour everything that you have into them, I think that's totally okay. I'm speaking again to the people who feel the tug, who feel the burden of trying to balance your students and also your family. I feel like that one might be controversial, but for those of you who know, you know, okay? Okay, the third one I think is also going to be controversial, but please stop listening to the myth that teachers should deduct points for non-compliant behavior. I have been under this impression for a really long time. A student was behaving poorly, I would take off points, I would remove the worksheet from their desk, and I'd be like, oh, well, you get a 0 for today, right? And so much of our grading was reflected in their behavior. But I genuinely believe that as I have grown and learned and really looked at the way that race and equity and all of that and grading plays a role in education, I believe that we do much more harm to students when we deduct points, when we lower their grade for behavior concerns or non-compliant concerns. Your student's grade should be reflective of their academic achievement. Can this student achieve, master, whatever word you want to call it, reach this skill? If so, this is the grade that reflects that. But putting in zeros, deducting points, for me, and I think that this is slowly becoming more of the wave, is not an accurate representation of that student. And it does reflect them poorly in the future. It doesn't allow them to maybe get into other high-level courses because their GPA is not an accurate representation of their grade and their academic performance. We have behavior mixed in there, and in my personal opinion, it should not be so any longer. I think that is the old way of teaching. I think it's the old way of grading, and there are a lot of inconsistencies and a lot of unjust things that happen to students when we include a behavior grade in their overall grade. Meet behavior, corrections with behavior consequences. And I have spoken about this in other videos. I think it makes the world of a difference. I think your students will respect you for it because you are deducting grades based on their academic performance, what they're able to do, not based on the fact that they are acting up in class. And so, yeah, that is the myth that I hope you guys at least consider and think about. I do know that it's controversial because it goes against the grain a lot with the way that we are taught to grade or the way that we have seen grading, the way that we've experienced grading, even as students ourselves. But I believe that that is a myth that we need to stop putting into practice. The next one I think is highly controversial, but please stop listening to this, that more homework equals better learning outcomes. Giving your students hours of homework at home does not always mean that they will have better learning outcomes. Now, hear me out, you guys. I do think that it is important for students to practice, repeat, apply the things that they have learned in the classroom. But giving them 5 problems versus 10, 15, 20 hours of reading, if you ask the right questions, if you pick the right reading materials, a student will be able to show you that they understand the content with just a few versus many. Just because you are giving something in a large quantity does not always mean that the quality is there. I am a big believer on less is more when it comes to homework. Here's this document, here's this reading, this is the skill that we practiced today in class. Here are 2 to 3 questions. If you have gotten the questions correct, you have shown me that you have reached the skill. I think hours of homework is unnecessary. I think assuming that students have the time to do homework for all of these different classes, assuming that they have their parents there to help them, I think that is also a privilege to assume those things. And so in my opinion, I do not think that you should remove homework, but I think that maybe reconsidering the way that you give homework and why you give homework to your students is important. And my final myth that we all need to stop listening to is, if you complain about being a teacher, then this job is not for you. What? I cannot tell you how many times people have judged me and have judged other teachers for complaining about being a teacher. Even in my video, 10 Things I Wish I Knew, the amount of negative comments, because people thought I was complaining about being a teacher when I was literally like, you guys, I'm just saying, like, I wish I knew these things. But I can see how they may come off as complaints to other people. But here's the thing, you guys. I have never met anyone in my life that even has a job that they love that has never complained about it before. Ever. I've just never met that person. And if you have, introduce them to me. If you are that person, reach out. I think at some point, everybody gets overwhelmed with their job. They get overwhelmed with the expectations. They get overwhelmed with maybe outside factors. And it is easy to complain. Now, I do think that we have to be mindful of how much we complain about our job, because the more you complain, it changes your perspective, and then you can taint the way that you view education. And I am very aware of that. But I think that if you are complaining about your job, it doesn't mean that it's not for you. It just means that you're overwhelmed, and it means that there are some things about the profession or about your class or about your administration that you're just not happy with at the moment. I have heard so many people just say really negative things about teachers if they have expressed some things about the profession that they don't enjoy. But the truth is, there is no perfect job for anyone. There's no perfect school for anyone. Like, that's just the way of the world. I think it's almost like saying, well, how dare you complain about your kids? You're annoyed by your kids, you shouldn't be a parent. You're annoyed by your spouse, you shouldn't be a wife, you shouldn't be a husband. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, there are just things that happen on the day-to-day that get you upset and that you complain about it, but it doesn't mean that teaching is not for you. If you find yourself in a place where you're just uncomfortable with where you're at right now in your career, or you find yourself complaining, I will say, hey, take a breather, maybe take a step back, maybe go for a walk, maybe speak to somebody about it. But 9 out of 10 times, I do believe that this is still your space and you are still supposed to be in education. But I think that every job has its ups and downs. And so please stop listening to that myth that if you are a teacher and you are not an angel, and if you are not living up to everyone's expectations, then the job is not for you, because I definitely don't believe that that is true. And that's pretty much it, you guys. I am interested to see how you all receive this video, but that is all from me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Give it a thumbs up. If there are other things, other myths that you would like to debunk about teachers or education, please put them in the comments below. I will say it was hard for me to even think of these 5, and so I'm interested to know what you all have to say. And that's pretty much it. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you all in the next video.